First contender tonight is Terence Saunders. He's a musician from Essex and his specialist subject, Gilbert and Sullivan. Next, Jonathan Wright, an operational support manager from Northumberland. His subject, the Tour de France. Andrew Teal is an office worker from Bury. His subject, the turbulent priest Thomas Becket. And Ailsa Watson, an administrator from Renfrewshire on Coronation Street. Hello, and welcome to Mastermind with me, John Humphrys. Tonight, 4 contenders facing 4.5 minutes of questions divided between the subject they've chosen to specialise in and general knowledge questions, which they may or may not have a clue about. And the clock makes no allowance for the hesitant. Let's have our first contender, please. And your name is?
Terence Saunders.
Your occupation?
A freelance musician.
And your chosen subject?
The lives and comic operas of Gilbert and Sullivan.
In 2 minutes, starting now. W.S. Gilbert and Arthur Sullivan were introduced to each other in 1869 by a mutual friend who'd composed the music to a play by Gilbert. What was his name?
Frederick Clay.
Yep. Which opera played on the opening night of the Savoy Theatre on the 10th of October 1881 after it transferred from the Opera Comique?
Patience.
Yes. What is the name of the actor and writer who created numerous famous roles, including Giuseppe in The Gondoliers and the Sergeant of Police in the London production of The Pirates of Penzance?
Rutland Barrington.
Correct. Which is the only one of the Gilbert and Sullivan comic operas that contains no spoken dialogue?
Trial by Jury.
Yes. At which church, where Sullivan was the organist in the 1860s, was much of the choir made up of policemen from the local police station?
St Michael's
Yes,
Square.
That's it. Which character sings a solo at the beginning of The Yeoman of the Guard? The only time one of the comic operas does not begin with a chorus.
Phoebe.
Yep. What is the title of the song Sullivan wrote the music for shortly after the death of his brother Fred?
The Lost Chord.
Yes. Princess Ida was presented by Gilbert as a respectful operatic perversion of the princess, a poem by which former poet laureate?
Tennyson.
Yep. What is the title of the oratorio by Sullivan that had its premiere at the Birmingham Festival in the presence of the Duke of Edinburgh in August 1873?
The Light of the World.
Yep. In The Mikado, which of Pooh Bah's many official roles does he adopt to perform the marriage of Nanky Poo and Yum Yum?
Archbishop of Titipu.
Yep. According to Gilbert, what dramatic event happened to him as an infant while he and his family were visiting Naples in 1838?
He was kidnapped.
He was. In Ruddigore, Sir Riven Murgatroyd must commit a crime every day to avoid dying. Whose will does he forge one Wednesday to commit such a crime?
His own.
Yes. In the song Many Years Ago in HMS Pinafore, Little Buttercup reveals she used to have what occupation when she was young and charming?
A baby farmer.
Yes. In which militia regiment did Gilbert serve, where he was promoted to the rank of captain in 1868?
West Yorkshire.
Oh, what a shame. You got them all right up until that point.
Royal Aberdeen.
The Royal Aberdeen, exactly. So there we are. You very nearly got a clean sweep there. Anyway, not bad, Terence. You've got 13 points.
Right.
And our next contender, please. And your name is?
Jonathan Wright.
Your occupation?
Operational support manager.
And your chosen subject?
History of the Tour de France.
Tour de France in 2 minutes. Here we go. Which daily sports newspaper started the Tour de France to increase circulation in their battle with their rival publication, Le Vélo?
L'Auto.
Yep. What classifications leader has worn a polka dot jersey since 1975? It was first won by Vincent Trouba in 1933.
King of the Mountains.
Yep. Which Italian rider and rival of Fausto Coppi won the Tour in 1938 and 48? It's the largest gap between wins in the history of the race.
Gino Bartoli.
Yep. In which city was the prologue and the start of the first full stage held when the Tour came to Britain for the Grand Départ in 2007?
Leeds.
London. Green was chosen as the colour of the jersey for the points classification when it was introduced in 1953, as the sponsor La Belle Jardinière was a manufacturer of what products?
Lawnmowers.
Yes. Who was known as the Eternal Second because he never won the Tour but finished in second place 3 times between 1962 and 76?
Raymond Poulidor.
Yep. Miguel Indurain, who won the Tour 5 times, raced for a team named after the Spanish bank that was the sponsor. What was it called?
Banesto.
Yep. Which British rider finished 4th overall and took the young rider classification at the 2016 Tour to become the first Briton to win the white jersey?
Adam Yates.
Yep. On the summit of which Alpine Pass is there a small cycling museum along with a memorial to Fausto Coppi and Louison Bobet?
The Col du Galibier.
Now, Col d'Izoire. The 1998 Tour was dogged by a series of scandals, particularly after a large haul of doping products was found in a car before the start of the race. Which team did the car belong to?
Festina.
Yep. What name is given to the most difficult of the 5 categories into which the mountain climbs on the Tour are divided?
Or category.
Yep. On which island was the 2013 Grand Départ held for the first time?
Corsica.
Yes. Who won the 1904 Tour after the first 4 riders, including the 1903 winner Maurice Garin, were disqualified for cheating? He remains the Tour's youngest winner.
Henry Connier.
Yep. What name is given to the vehicle that picks up any rider who abandons the race or falls too far behind on a stage?
The Broom Wagon.
The Broom Wagon, indeed. No passes, Jonathan. You have scored 12 points. And our next contender, please. And your name is?
Andrew Teal.
Your occupation?
Office worker.
And your chosen subject?
Thomas Becket.
In 2 minutes, starting now. Thomas Becket was a 12th century clergyman whose views on the church clashed with those of Henry II. To what post did Henry appoint Becket during the Christmas celebrations at Bermondsey Abbey in 1154?
Archbishop of Canterbury.
Royal Chancellor. Becket excommunicated a number of his enemies, including Gilbert Folliot and Ranulph de Broc, in 1169 at a Cistercian abbey associated with St Bernard. Which abbey?
Clairvaux.
Yep. The Archbishop of Canterbury, Theobald, allowed Becket to study law in Bologna and in a French city before he appointed him as an archdeacon. Which French city?
Auxerre.
Yep. What was the name of the papal legate to Normandy who helped Becket to overcome his reluctance to be elected as the Archbishop of Canterbury?
Henry of Pisa.
Yes. At what council held in Oxfordshire in 1163 did Becket refuse to support Henry II's attempt to divert the tax known as the Sheriff's Aid into royal revenue?
Woodstock.
Yeah. To what town did Henry summon Becket in 1164 to answer charges that related to his failure to obey a royal writ in the case of John the Marshal?
Northampton.
Yeah. Who led Becket's deputation to Pope Alexander III at Sens in France and told the Pope the details of the proceedings of the Council of Northampton?
John of Salisbury.
Herbert of Bosham. What was the name of the archbishop who accompanied Becket to the ceremony of reconciliation with Henry at Vretval in 1170? Henry named him as surety for his good faith.
Pass.
Henry and Becket disagreed over whether it was lawful for Henry to attack a citadel occupied by Louis VII during a siege of which French city?
Toulouse.
Yep. Becket was murdered in Canterbury Cathedral in December 1170. What was the name of his supporter who was with him shortly before he was killed? He had earlier dedicated his political treatise Polycraticus to Becket.
John of Salisbury.
Yes. What was the name of the knight who kept onlookers at bay while his companions murdered Becket?
Hugh de Morville.
Yeah. At which ancient town near Rome did Pope Alexander III issue the decree that canonised Becket in 1173?
Seigneur.
Yes. Which Sicilian cathedral contained a 12th century mosaic of Becket depicted as a saint that's reputed to be one of the earliest likenesses of him to survive?
Palermo.
And no, it was Montreal Cathedral. You have one pass. The name of that archbishop who accompanied him to the ceremony of reconciliation was William, Archbishop of Sens. And Andrew, you have 9 points. And our final contender, please. And your name is?
Ailsa Watson.
Your occupation?
I'm an administrator.
And your chosen subject?
Coronation Street.
Coronation Street. In 2 minutes. Here we go. Betty Turpin, who became Weatherfield's longest-serving barmaid in 2010 and died in 2012, was especially noted for what recipe?
A hot pot.
Yep. Who once turned down the chance to play Elsie Tanner's nephew, but eventually appeared many years later as the author and conman Mel Hutchwright?
Sir Ian McKellen.
Yes. What does Eileen Grimshaw learn about Ed Jackson's past that causes her to end her relationship with the affable churchgoer and former convict?
That he'd murdered Emily's husband.
Yeah, killed Ernest Bishop. Which comedian and writer made a cameo appearance in 2004 when he played the brewery drayman Eric Gartside?
Peter Kay.
Yep. How much does Terry Duckworth demand out of his father Jack's big gambling win before he will agree to donate one of his kidneys to his son, Paul?
£10,000.
£25,000. What's the name of the serial killer and fraudster who murders his ex-wife Patricia and Maxine Peacock and tries to kill both Audrey Roberts and Emily Bishop?
Richard Hillman.
Yep. Who says in exasperation, is it any wonder why I drink, when Ken, Deirdre and Blanche go with him to the local alcoholic support group but start to argue?
Peter Barlow.
Yeah. What does Jim McDonnell do to raise the money to enable his ex-wife Liz to buy the Rovers' return?
He robs a bank.
Yeah, building society, yeah. Raquel Watts left the street in 1996 for a job in Malaysia. In which country had she most recently been living when she returned briefly to Weatherfield to seek a divorce from Curly Watts?
France.
Yep. What song does Jack sing to Vera as he holds her hand and bids her farewell when he finds her dead in her chair in their living room?
Pass.
What's the name of the character who arrived in 2003 and worked at the Underworld factory and also behind the bar at the Rovers?
Sean Tully.
Yep. Dev Allahan, who bought the corner shop from his uncle, came to Weatherfield from which city?
Leeds.
Birmingham. Emily agrees to look after Rita's Shih Tzu dog for 3 weeks while she goes on a Mediterranean cruise, but the dog dies in the cabin storeroom. What was the dog's name?
Eccles.
Mr. Wu. What is the name of Deirdre's former husband, who briefly reappears in 2005 and attends Deirdre and Ken's wedding? He is terminally ill and dies at the reception in his seat at the Rovers' return.
Ray Langton.
Yeah, Ray Langton, poor chap. You had one pass. That song that Jack sang rather movingly to Vera. If you were the only girl in the world, what else could it be? Anyway, not bad. You've got 10 points. So that's the end of a pretty close first round. Let's have a look at the scores. In fourth place, 9 points. Andrew Till. Third place, 10 points. Ailsa Watson. Second place, 12 points. Jonathan Wright. First place, 13 points. Terence Saunders. So it is the general knowledge round now, and if there's a tie at the end of it, then the number of passes is taken into account, and the person with the fewer passes is the winner. And if there's a tie on passes as well, there will be a tie break. So let us get on with it and ask Andrew to join us again, please. And you start out, Andrew, with 9 points. You have 2.5 minutes of general knowledge now, so loads of time to catch up and overtake the field. Here we go. What activity was first known as sidewalk surfing in America, where it quickly developed in the early 1960s?
Jaywalking.
Skateboarding. In Shakespeare's play, what's the name of Othello's wife whom he kills after Iago has falsely convinced him of her infidelity?
Ida.
Desdemona. The head of which animal is featured on the brass door knocker at 10 Downing Street?
Lion.
Yep. What is the Latin name of the request for prayer addressed to the Blessed Virgin that has been set to music by many composers, notably Schubert and Gounod?
Ave Maria.
Yes. What was the nickname of Edward, the eldest son of Edward III, who said to have won his spurs at the Battle of Crecy?
The Black Prince.
Yes. Which cathedral in northeast England was supposedly built by the guardians of the remains of St. Cuthbert?
Durham.
Yep. The original drafts of the screenplay of a film included the adventures of Luke Starkiller in their titles. Which film?
Star Wars.
Yep. What common garden tool is a long-handled implement with a light blade and used to till the soil or get rid of weeds? It has variants called Paxton and Dutch.
Hoe.
Yeah. Who had a UK top 10 hit in 1991 with a medley of two previous Marvin Gaye US hits, Mercy, Mercy Me and I Want You?
Pass.
What is the common name for the temporary set of primary teeth of baby mammals, including humans?
Milk teeth.
Yep. A 1930s painting by a Belgian surrealist artist called Time Transfixed shows a steam engine coming out of a fireplace. Which artist?
Matisse.
Magritte. A roundabout and bus station in Slough feature in the opening sequences of a television comedy series that ran from 2001 to 2003. Which series?
The Office.
Yep. The 1926 novel The Sun Also Rises, published in Britain as Fiesta, was the first major success of which Nobel Prize-winning American writer?
Hemingway.
Yep. What hard-boiled pink and yellow sweets have a slightly tapered shape to suggest the fruit whose flavour they're supposed to have?
Pair drops.
Yep. The name of which king of Israel, who was renowned for his fast and furious chariot driving, is used as a term for a coachman or driver of similar quality?
Pass.
Which breed of dog is known as a Westie?
West Island Terrier.
Yep. Winston Churchill's speech that contains the words "this was their finest hour" was delivered on the 18th of June 1940, the 125th anniversary of what battle?
Waterloo.
Yes. What ancient kingdom was ruled by Alexander III, known as the Great, from 336 to 323 BC?
Macedonia.
Yep. What is the title of Sibelius' nationalistic work originally written to accompany the final part of a series of tableaux performed in Helsinki in 1899?
Finlandia.
Finlandia is correct. 2 passes. The name of that king of Israel who liked driving his chariot very fast was King Jehu. And it was Robert Palmer who had a UK top 10 hit with all those Marvin Gaye numbers. You have a total now, Andrew, of 23 points. And now Elsa again, please. And you start out with 10 points in this round, Elsa. So 2.5 minutes of general knowledge. Here we go. Nicholas Lyndhurst played Rodney Delboy's brother in which television series?
Only Fools and Horses.
Yep. Eve's pudding traditionally consists of a topping of sponge over a layer of what fruit?
Apples.
Yep. In which 1982 film does Richard Gere play the would-be pilot Zach Mayo, who joins the Navy flight school?
An Officer and a Gentleman.
Yep. The name of which multi-race event in track cycling comes from the Latin for belonging to all?
Omnium.
Yeah. What's the title of the album of classic recordings of Elvis Presley songs accompanied by new orchestral arrangements by the Royal Philharmonic Orchestra, which topped the UK album chart for 2 weeks in 2015?
The Wonder of You.
If I can dream. In economics, what term is used to describe a general increase in the price of goods and services that results in a fall in the purchasing power of money?
Inflation.
Yes. Who wrote the satirical novel Erewhon, first published in 1872, about an imaginary utopia?
Pass.
Who composed the music for the operas Peter Grimes and Albert Herring, both of which are set in his native Suffolk?
Benjamin Britten.
Yep. What was the most distant planet in the solar system known to man before the discovery of Uranus?
Saturn.
Yes. In which country is there a desert named after Alfred Gibson? He was a member of one of the first parties to cross it, but he disappeared during the expedition while he was searching for water.
Australia.
Yes. William II, who died in a hunting accident in the New Forest, was the last English king to be buried in which cathedral?
Winchester.
Yes. The name of which central London war memorial comes from the Greek for empty tomb?
Cenotaph.
Yes. What is the name of the class of learned men among the ancient Celts of Gaul and Britain who Julius Caesar names as priests and teachers?
Druids.
Yes. Whose first novel, Burmese Days, is about his time serving there in the Indian Imperial Police during the 1920s?
George Orwell.
Yes. In which 20th century conflict did the Battle of Goose Green take place?
Falklands.
Yep. Which yellow hybrid tea rose edged with pink was handed out to each of the delegates at the inaugural meeting of the United Nations in 1945?
A Peace Rose.
Yes. The actress and model Isabella Rossellini is the daughter of which film actress?
Ingrid Bergman.
Yep. Whose promotion to Chief Secretary to the Treasury in 2008 meant that she and her husband, Ed Balls, became the first married couple to sit in cabinet together?
Yvette Cooper.
Yep. What's the title of the Irving Berlin song that is used as the theme tune of the long-running television series Birds of a Feather?
What'll I Do?
Yes. Orenthal James are the forenames of which former American sporting hero who was jailed for armed robbery and kidnapping in 2008?
O.J. Simpson.
Yes, in 1996, Cristina Sanchez became the first woman in Spain to reach the top rank in which male-dominated occupation?
Golf.
Well, I suppose it might have been, but it's slightly more aggressive than that. Bullfighting, as it happened. Very close. You had 1 pass. The writer of that satirical novel was Samuel Butler. But you've now scored, after a very cracking round there, 28 points. And now Jonathan again, please. And you start out with 12, and I don't want to intimidate you, but 28 is the score to beat. 2.5 minutes to do it in. Here we go. Who married Mrs. Wallis Simpson in June 1937 after he'd abdicated the throne?
Edward VIII.
Yeah, Duke of Windsor. In Southeast Asia, a mahout is the keeper or driver of which animal?
Elephant.
Yep. In physics, what name is given to a material that is a good transmitter of heat or electricity?
Conductor.
Yep. Heaton Park, which contains the Grade 1 listed Heaton Hall and is one of the largest municipal parks in Europe, is in which city in northwest England?
Manchester.
Yes. In which country was the left-wing anti-austerity party Podemos founded in 2014? Its name means we can.
Poland.
Spain. In music, what title is given as a courtesy to eminent composers and conductors? It's the Italian for master.
Maestro.
Yes. In which 1970s television series did a band of space renegades travel the galaxy on the spaceship The Liberator and fight back against the totalitarian Terran Federation?
Joe 90.
Blake 7. What dish, common in Greece, Turkey and the Balkans, is typically made of sliced aubergines layered with minced lamb, tomatoes and onions, often topped with bechamel sauce?
Moussaka.
Yep. In what 2016 film, based on a novel by Dan Brown, does Tom Hanks reprise his role as the Harvard symbologist Robert Langdon?
Inferno.
Yep. Which Russian city was known as Tsaritsyn until 1925 and then Stalingrad until 1961?
Volgograd.
Yes. The cornerstone of which political and religious movement came from the words of the Jamaican-born political leader Marcus Garvey, who said, "Look to Africa, where a black king shall be crowned"?
Rastafarianism.
Yeah. Gorget, brassard and gauntlets are all parts of what form of protective clothing?
Suit of armour.
Yep. Irving Stone's biographical novel Lust for Life, made into a film starring Kirk Douglas and Anthony Quinn, is about the tortured life of which artist?
Salvador Dali.
No, Van Gogh. Which British girl group's fourth album, Glory Days, gave them their first UK chart-topping album in November 2016?
Little Mix.
Yes. Henrik Mkhitaryan, who joined Manchester United in July 2016, is the first footballer from which country to play in the English Premier League?
Armenia.
Yes. What is the name of the fictional castaway who wrote in his diary, "I was exceedingly surprised with the print of a man's naked foot on the shore"?
Robinson Crusoe.
Yes. Which footballer married the pop singer Victoria Adams on the 4th of July 1999?
David Beckham.
Yep. The continuing military alliance formed in 1949 to counter the perceived Soviet threat after the Second World War is known by what four-letter acronym?
NATO.
NATO is correct. You have scored a total of 27 points. And finally, Terence again, please. And you start out with 13.
Indeed.
And 28 still the score to beat. Here we go. Whose first successful book, The Tale of Peter Rabbit, was initially rejected by a number of publishers?
Beatrix Potter.
Yep. What does William Congreve say has charms to soothe the savage breast in his play The Morning Bride?
Music.
Yes. What nickname is shared by the American former boxing world champions Ray Robinson and Ray Leonard?
Sugar.
Yep. Which Russian-born composer was commissioned by Diaghilev to write his first full-length ballet, The Firebird? It had its premiere at the Paris Opera on the 25th of June, 1910.
Stravinsky.
Yep. Henry Morton Stanley has just one four-word entry in the Oxford Dictionary of Quotations. What are the famous words he reputedly spoke in Africa in 1871?
Dr. Livingstone, I presume.
Yes. In which classic film that stars Humphrey Bogart and Ingrid Bergman does Claude Rains play Captain Louis Renault and Sidney Greenstreet play Signor Ferrari?
Casablanca.
Yes. What is the medical term for the voice box in humans and other animals?
Oh, the thorax.
Larynx. What name is given to a roof tile with an S-shaped profile that gives a corrugated effect when it's laid on a roof?
Pass.
Which biblical prophet is known in Islam as Musa?
Moses.
Yes. What pop group composed of three brothers first entered the UK singles charts in 1967 with the top 20 hit New York Mining Disaster 1941?
The Bee Gees.
Yes. Which palace on the Thames was built on a site that belonged to the Knights Hospitallers of St. John of Jerusalem from 1236 until 1514?
Pass.
What is the name of Venice's main waterway that divides the city into two?
Oh, pass.
Members of which legislative assembly that dates back to 1958 were first elected by universal suffrage in 1979, served a term of 5 years?
Pass.
What was the stage name of the singer, actor and entertainer who was born Asa Yulson in Lithuania in 1886 and grew up in America?
Mae West.
Al Jolson. The green or common anaconda, one of the world's largest snakes, is native to which continent?
Asia.
South America. Stephanie Turner played Inspector Jean Darblay in the first 3 series of which television series?
Pass.
How many 75 centilitre bottles of champagne does a Magnum hold?
5.
2. The code enacted in 1804 that still forms the basis of modern French law takes its popular name from which ruler?
Louis XIV.
Napoleon. Which American evangelist who gained international fame after the Second World War first came to Britain in 1954, where huge crowds attended his rallies at places like Haringey Arena and Wembley?
Billy Graham.
Billy Graham, it was indeed. You had 5 passes, Terence. Juliet Bravo, played by Stephanie Turner. It was the European Parliament, dating back to 1958.
Yes, I suppose it was.
Yeah. Grand Canal divides Venice, but you knew that.
I did know.
Absolutely. Hampton Court was the palace on the Thames, built on that site, belonging to the Knights Hospitallers.
Yes.
The roof tile was with an S-shaped profile. That's called a pan tile.
Didn't know that.
No. Anyway, there we are. You have a total, Terence, of 22 points.
Thank you.
Well, let's have a look at all those scores. In 4th place, 22 points, Terence Saunders. 3rd place, 23 points, Andrew Till. 2nd place, 27 points, Jonathan Wright. 1st place, 28 points, Ailsa Watson. And that means, of course, that Ailsa is tonight's winner and goes through to the semi-finals. Congratulations to her, commiseration to Jonathan, but with his score of 27, it's entirely possible that we shall see him again in the semi-final. If you would like to be a contender yourself for the next series, do go to our website, bbc.co.uk/mastermind, and you can follow us on Twitter @MastermindQuiz. And do join us again next time for more Masterminds. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.